Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And yes, today I'm back with another omnibus-centric comic book list video. Today we're looking at 5 fun omnibuses I could not put down. These are series that I just burned through, that I just loved, and frankly, I just want to talk about more. Cannot wait to start the list, but before we do, I want to shout out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, including omnibus format, please check out their website. You can find a link for it in this video's description, and if you see anything there you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's omnibus video. In no particular order, we're going to kick off today's video with Howard the Duck Omnibus by Chip Zdarsky and Joe Quinones. For me, this was a random pickup some time ago. I saw it deeply discounted online some time ago and just had to pick up a copy. I was vaguely aware of Chip Zdarsky. I had started reading his Daredevil run and really enjoyed it, but I was still newer to this writer, and so when I picked up Howard the Duck, I didn't really know what to expect. I know that the Daredevil run takes itself a bit more seriously, and Howard the Duck is largely a comedic title. And frankly, the range I saw from Zdarsky throughout this run, it just really blew me away. It's humorous, it's fun, it's full of a lot of great action and character bits, but there's also a surprising amount of heart. I was really just floored by just the depth of feeling I had reading this book. There were times where I did laugh out loud, and the whole thing just read like a breeze. I could not put this thing down. And now I know this is a smaller run in general, but still this was such a delight to read cover to cover. This is also my first exposure to the artist Joe Quinones. Never really seeing this artist before, never seeing this style. It is a bit more cartoony or animated. It favors kind of heavier outlining and a vibrant kind of color palette, but it all really works and it fits the storytelling. It fits the kind of more animated character like Howard. And this team of Zdarsky and Quinones together, it just was really good. I really enjoyed the way that Howard the Duck kind of lampooned or made fun of the Marvel Universe in general. I do think that anyone could just pick up this book and enjoy it, but if you're a longer term fan of the Marvel Universe, I think that some of the jokes will hit a little bit harder. Zdarsky just takes some shots at some of the main Marvel heroes. I know Spider-Man really gets to be the butt of the joke several times throughout this book, and it's a blast. And we have Howard going everywhere, from just different places on Earth, the Savage Land, deep in outer space. We cover so much ground in this small series, but like I said, it's hard to put down. And for whatever reason, I don't really hear people talk about this omnibus or this run quite that much. And I know that Zdarsky's popularity has just grown in recent years, having written stuff like Batman as well. But for whatever reason, like I said, not a lot of people are talking about Howard the Duck, but I frankly think that this is a fun series. Even looking at some of this art right now, it makes me realize I want to go back and read this run again, or at least kind of cherry pick some of my favorite issues. In this omnibus as well, we have some crossover issues with the Incredible Squirrel Girl, or the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Anyway, we have a couple Squirrel Girl issues here. We have kind of a larger introduction to the character of Gwenpool show up in the pages of Howard the Duck. I really like that. That character got her start as a variant cover on a comic book, but we have like the actual first appearances in comic book, I believe, in this omnibus. This is certainly the first place I ever read Gwenpool. So this book has a lot of just kind of important moments that I thought were kind of funny as well. Anyway, if you're looking for a fun palate cleanser in an omnibus form, this is it right here, Howard the Duck. Next on the list, we have an omnibus I've talked about quite a lot on this page. It's the Silver Surfer Omnibus by Dan Slott, Mike, and Laura Allred. This is a run that really sticks out in my mind, especially recently. This is my answer for anyone who wants kind of the softer side of the Marvel Universe. Maybe you're a fan like myself of a good, well-told love story, a fun just exploration of character, and something that's just vibrant and beautiful. We have the trademark Allred art with that heavier outline, a more stylistic kind of pop art aesthetic, and it just really works for the storytelling here. Dan Slott takes us on an interstellar adventure, and to give the Allreds that kind of blank slate in the Marvel Universe to depict all these alien worlds and cultures and props or items or whatever. It's just amazing to see what the Allreds come up with. I really just love the art in this book. I think as an art book alone, this is 100% worth it. It's eye candy. It's so easy to get lost in the world of this Silver Surfer. But honestly, the writing is pretty great as well. This is, like I said, a more warm side of the Dan Slott writing. I am a fan of Dan Slott. I've loved what I've read of his Spider-Man run, but there's a lot of tenderness in this Silver Surfer that I didn't expect at the series onset. Now, I will say, for longer-term fans of our favorite Sentinel of the Spaceways, this is a Silver Surfer that is a bit less brooding and a bit more personable. But honestly, it had its charms. This character, this run, it really grew on me, and by the end, it's become one of my single favorite Marvel comic runs of all time. It's also a great example of a one-and-done comic book run that I think you can enjoy this single volume and feel like you got a singular experience. You don't necessarily need to read any Silver Surfer before this, and you certainly don't need to pick up some after this, though if this made you fall in love with the character, maybe you'll still enjoy the different interpretations we get of him throughout the years. Another thing about this book I really like is that there are a few notable issues that really play with the form and kind of just break just conventional storytelling mechanics in really fun and visual ways. I don't want to spoil it too much here, but it's just a real treat. I think if you're a fan of the comic book medium in general, seeing how that kind of stuff is played with, the page layout and formatting and kind of what the artistic expression does within this run, it's just really very, very cool. I think that this art really pushes boundaries, and this is one of my favorite contemporary Marvel comic runs as well. This is one I just couldn't put down. I know what's funny is when I first started reading this run, I read it the first maybe 4 or 5 issues in trade paperback, and I wasn't super captivated by it, but then I decided to double down and invest in the omnibus, and once I started the omnibus, that is when I just went full on. I read this thing, I read it so fast, and for any longer-term fan of this channel may tell you, I haven't been able to stop talking about it since. So if you're looking for a great Marvel Omnibus pickup or a great Marvel run in general, please consider The Silver Surfer by Dan Slott, Mike Allred, and Laura Allred. And hey, if you're enjoying this video and you've yet to subscribe to this channel, I would just like to invite you to do so. I'm always doing fun comic book list videos like this, comic book reviews, unboxings, and so much more. Thank you for considering. Now on with the show. Next on the list today, we have the first DC Omnibus, the Grayson Superspy Omnibus from Tim Seeley, Tom King, and Mikkel Janin. This is a really dynamic and interesting book that's maybe a little bit off the beaten path for mainstream DC readers. This follows Dick Grayson, the once Robin, the oftentimes Nightwing, who is now basically, after faking his own death, he's kind of ingratiated himself and joined this clandestine kind of secret organization known as Spiral, and it's basically a super spy kind of espionage agency that functions internationally, and Batman basically believes it's a deeply corrupt organization, and Dick Grayson is trying to gather intel and perhaps topple it from the inside. This is the answer for any comic book fan that also happens to be a James Bond fan, and in my mind, it's truly surprising how effective this comic book series is. On paper, it maybe doesn't seem like it's going to work, and yet the payoff is absolutely exceptional. We have Dick Grayson out of his norm and becoming, a straight-up super spy, using all the skills he's honed as Robin, as Nightwing for so many years, trying not to get caught, trying to topple the evil, all the while maintaining his integrity, his soul. The art from Mikkel Janin is absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and it really feels like that kind of Bond spy thriller kind of book. You know, we have some exotic locales, some femme fatales, and some truly gripping action sequences. I absolutely love what I got to read in this book, and this is a great example of a book that was really hard to put down. In fact, I think candidly, the only time I really got slowed a little bit was the tie-in issues we had with the Robin War event going on at DC Comics. There were a couple issues in this omnibus around the middle that tie into that I almost think you could have removed and still enjoyed this book, but I am happy they were included. But other than that, this thing just took off to the races, took off running. I couldn't put it down. I also think as Dick Grayson and Nightwing is only growing in popularity, especially thanks to the current run that we've had going with Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo, this is a really fun chapter in the life of Dick Grayson that I think some people just completely avoid. And that may be to their detriment, because this character is still 100% Dick Grayson, even without the Nightwing superhero outfit. And I also think that this is a fun example, like the Silver Surfer entry before this, of a great one-and-done comic book series. Yes, is it helpful to know a little bit more about this character before picking this up? Sure, but if you just want to dive in, this really gives you everything you need to know. And by the end, we really have enough of a transition that you feel like you have a complete story beginning, middle, and end, just in this single omnibus. I really loved it. I don't think that this series overstayed its welcome in any way. I felt like it had some great payoffs, some great DC Comics cameos, and like I just said, some great action spy thriller antics that, it just left me wanting more. It really was a fun chapter for this character and a just excellent DC comic book run that I could thoroughly recommend, especially if you want a zippy spy thriller. Okay, another omnibus I just couldn't put down. It was so much fun. The Venom Omnibus by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, or Venomnibus, depending on how you like to refer to these. This was a run that was so celebrated. I felt like this and Immortal Hulk I heard nothing but positive hype for, and I managed to avoid both series for probably longer than I should have. I first had my entry into this whole era of Venom by reading the event King in Black, which was also by Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, and it in many ways is the culmination of this entire run. I read that as a standalone, 5-issue event or however long it was, and I was floored at how great it was. The artwork was fantastic, and Venom was depicted in just such a fantastical way. I thought the storyline was kind of gripping, a little frightening, and just altogether a fun read. But I had not gone back and read the run proper that all fed into the event itself, and I had so many commenters on YouTube telling me, I cannot believe you read King in Black without reading the run. What are you doing? It's so much better after you read the run. You have to read the run. Well, ultimately, I relented and I bought the omnibus and I devoured this run. Admittedly, I am a fan of Venom, but I have read little of his standalone solo series. Sure, I've read around kind of casually, but the Venom I know is more often than not the antagonist or villain for Spider-Man, and sometimes the kind of ally to Spider-Man. I never really read that much of him by himself. And then I picked up this omnibus and I fell in love with the character of Eddie Brock and Venom. I think that this run absolutely humanizes this character, and it's really a redemption arc for Eddie Brock. A character that maybe you didn't know you were supposed to care about is all of a sudden the heart and soul of the Marvel Universe as far as I'm concerned. At least that's how I felt reading this run. It's so encompassing and interesting, and I just really enjoyed the time. And not only does this omnibus include the entire run by Donny Cates, we also get the entire just straight up event of Absolute Carnage and King in Black. No, we don't get every single tie-in, but we get the main event series for both of those, and the run, and some extras all in this single volume. This is a great one-and-done omnibus as well, but it still really loyally rewards fans of previous Venom runs. There's a lot of fun Easter eggs in this book. It feels both separate and yet deeply embedded into the rest of the Marvel Universe, and this just really works for me. I think that one of the coolest facets of it is in the beginning we have this kind of lore building element for the symbiotes and Venom, introducing the King in Black, Null, the kind of creator of the symbiotes, and right from the beginning we essentially have a kind of ticking clock mechanic story-wise, and it culminates with King in Black at the end of this book. I was so deeply satisfied by this book, I couldn't put it down, and it's a pretty big book, and I still just breezed right on through it. We have a lot of talented artists attached to this book, but my favorite is definitely Ryan Stegman, who's one of the top build in this omnibus. Really, really beautiful stuff here. Kind of a darker edge to the artwork and even some of the stories, but there is so much hope here. Like I said, at the core of it, it is a redemption story, and it is a marvel. Okay, and last but certainly not least on this list, Miles Morales Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1. I believe I did an unboxing for this omnibus some time ago, but I don't think I've ever given it a proper review. If you'd like to see that on the channel, let me know in the comments. But for today's purposes, this was absolutely a fun omnibus that I went right through quite quickly. I have always been a fan of The Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis. I just love that run. I collected the entire thing in paperback back in in the day, sold that collection, and now I'm starting to build it back up in omnibus editions. At any rate, though, that had a really good closing, but I knew that Brian Michael Bendis went on and spun out in that universe and developed a new Spider-Man in the person of Miles Morales. I had since seen Miles show up in crossovers, events, or different things, but I had yet to read his solo stuff until maybe a little bit over a year ago when I finally picked up this omnibus, and I just fell in love. A really fantastic character, absolutely well handled by Brian Michael Bendis, and set in that same world of the Ultimate Spider-Man that I had really loved when I first became a comic book fan, comic book collector. So I felt like I was reading at first an epilogue to one of my favorite runs of all time, and then I realized that no, this is its own thing, and it's really great that it is. Sharing some of the DNA from the Ultimate Spider-Man, but just going into new places and new cultures and new areas with an entirely new character, it just really worked for me. I love the stories we get in this first omnibus. We have the origin of Miles Morales. We have so many aspects or attributes for this character that make him so different than Peter Parker, even the ultimate Peter Parker of this universe, but the ties to that character are absolutely felt and well-founded throughout. We have a really great supporting cast of characters for Miles, as well as some returning characters from that Ultimate Spider-Man series before this one, and I just think that this was a real blast. This leads into the Volume 2 that kind of is the second half of Bendis' time on Miles Morales. I really enjoyed that as well, but this introductory volume just hit it out of the park. It got me excited for this newer character, and honestly, this was a great example of one that was hard to put down like all the others. Miles also has a kind of Volume 3 omnibus. That one's by Saladin Ahmed. I'm actually currently reading that omnibus as well, and that's going really strongly as well. But to see the character origins in this omnibus, there's just things about this first volume that absolutely stick out to me. I think if you're really looking to get into the character, maybe you've seen the Spider-Verse animated films and you just really want to find some comics to read for Miles, this is where you start. This is where you really jump in. You don't really need to know anything that happened prior to this, and anything you do, the book will fill you in appropriately. But man, what a great foundation for this character. He feels a bit different than his on-screen counterpart, but he's still such an effective Marvel character and a really great Spider-Man. I absolutely loved this omnibus. Like I said, if you want to see a full review of it though on the channel, let me know. I'm sure I'd be happy to accommodate. Okay, and just like that, we're going to start wrapping up our 5 fun omnibus editions I could not put down. This was a bit of a zippier or quicker list. I didn't want to do a full top 10. I wanted something a little bit breezier, and honestly, I really enjoyed it, and now I'm kind of kicking myself. There's easily another 5 or 10 omnibuses I could do this with. If you enjoyed this video concept, though, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll do another one in the future, like a part 2 to this video. And also, if you have your own omnibus comic recommendations, I'd love to hear about them in the comments section. What are some runs that you just couldn't put down, that you just read through and just really just wanted more? What are some comic book runs you want to share and want to get more people interested in? I'd love to hear all about that. Let's get some discussions going. I'm sure there are probably so many comic book omnibus runs on your list that maybe weren't featured in this video, but I'd like to hear all about it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm still really enjoying these lists. I hope you're enjoying watching them, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to give this video a like, maybe comment if you want to share your opinions, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks so much. Have a good one.